Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the stories behind monumental achievements and explore the why and how behind human ingenuity. Today, we're not just reaching for the moon, we're landing on it. This marks our 10th deep dive into the incredible Apollo program, and we've arrived at the mission that didn't just meet a challenge, but redefined human capability forever. Apollo 11. You've provided us with a truly fascinating array of sources, from the meticulous historical documents of NASA and the National Archives to the comprehensive statistical details in Richard Orloff's Apollo by the Numbers, and even, virtual libraries of lunar samples. Our mission, should we choose to embark on it, is to delve into Apollo 11, tracing every meticulously planned step.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating here is how Apollo 11 wasn't just a singular event. I mean, it was the culmination of everything we've explored in our previous deep dives, right?
Yeah.
From the tragic lessons of Apollo 1 all the way through the full dress rehearsal of Apollo 10. This mission brilliantly achieved its immediate objective of landing humans on the moon, but in doing so, it also fulfilled the broader, ambitious goals set for the entire Apollo program. Think about it. Establishing the technology for future national interests in space, securing preeminence for the United States during the space race?
A huge part of it.
Absolutely. And initiating the scientific exploration of the moon, and perhaps most profoundly, developing the human capability to work and thrive in an environment entirely alien to us. We'll trace that incredible journey from liftoff to splashdown, culminating in what Neil Armstrong famously called one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind.
And what a journey it's been to get to this point, hasn't it? I mean, we've trekked through the early tough lessons of Apollo 1, witnessed the sheer brute force of the Saturn V and its uncrewed tests with Apollo 4 and 6, saw the lunar module stretch its wings in Apollo 5,
Right, the first LM flight.
embraced the first crewed flight with Apollo 7, marveled at the bold lunar orbital journey of Apollo 8.
Which was just incredible, that Christmas Eve broadcast.
Unforgettable. Then dissected the integrated spacecraft tests of Apollo 9 and held our breath during the near-perfect dress rehearsal of Apollo 10. Now, with all those pieces of the puzzle meticulously put together, the final ultimate test awaits. It's truly a story of incremental mastery, pushing boundaries step by step.
Indeed. And this deep dive will illuminate not just who the crew was or what the spacecraft consisted of, but the how and why behind the precision planning. And, the monumental, often nail-biting moments that defined Apollo 11. We'll draw heavily from the comprehensive chronologies and historical references that don't just outline this pivotal event, but immerse you in its every detail. Every system, every procedure, every contingency had been rigorously tested, sometimes under, harrowing circumstances, in those preceding missions.
Yeah.
All leading to this singular, audacious attempt. We're talking about a level of preparation frankly unmatched in human history.
Okay, let's unpack this with the incredible team that would etch their names into history. This wasn't just any crew. These were the three men chosen to represent humanity on its most daring journey. Leading the charge, the quiet, unflappable commander Neil Armstrong, destined to be the first to step onto the lunar surface. Then we had Edwin E. Buzz Aldrin Jr., the lunar module pilot, the brilliant mind who would become the second human to walk on the moon.
Right, Dr. Rendezvous himself.
Exactly. And finally, Michael Collins, the command module pilot, the man with the solitary, immense responsibility of orbiting the moon alone while his crewmates descended, holding their ultimate lifeline in his hands. It's a trio whose names are now utterly synonymous with exploration, isn't it?
Absolutely. And each of these astronauts had a truly critical, highly specialized role. Their selection for this mission was anything but arbitrary. If we connect this to the bigger picture, their collective expertise and countless hours of training, deeply informed by the experiences of prior missions like Apollo 10's near landing, were absolutely essential.
So Armstrong's famous calm, that wasn't just reputation.
Not at all. Neil Armstrong was renowned for his extraordinary calm demeanor under pressure. We saw this famously during the Gemini 8 mission, remember, where he saved his craft from a terrifying out-of-control spin.
Right, the stuck thruster.
Exactly. His experience as a test pilot, pushing the boundaries of flight, made him the ideal choice to command such a high-stakes mission, particularly for the unprecedented task of manually landing on an unknown lunar surface. He had that cool head you needed.
And Buzz Aldrin, he brought a different kind of expertise.
He did. A different, but equally crucial kind of brilliance. With his doctorate in astronautics from MIT, he had extensively researched orbital mechanics and rendezvous procedures. He was instrumental, really, in developing the very techniques that would be used for the lunar orbit rendezvous.
He literally wrote the book on it, didn't he? Well, the thesis.
Pretty much, yeah. He effectively wrote the textbook for how to meet up in space. His intellectual rigor and deep understanding of the complex calculations required for landing and ascent were indispensable.
And Michael Collins, orbiting alone, that role seems almost paradoxical, isolated yet completely vital.
It really was. Often called the loneliest man in the universe during his solo orbits. But his role was anything but secondary. He was the guardian of Columbia, the command module, their home, their control center, and, crucially, their only way back to Earth.
He had to be ready for anything.
Anything. His prior experience on Gemini 10, where he performed 2 EVAs, gave him a profound understanding of spacecraft systems and the mental fortitude required for prolonged, solitary operations. His responsibility was immense. Keep the command module safe, be the communications relay, and be ready at any moment to perform a rescue if something went wrong with the lunar module.
That whole division of labor, CM pilot, LM pilot, commander, it all stemmed from that Lorer decision way back, right?
Precisely. The specific division of labor for the Lunar Orbit Rendezvous, or LOR, chosen back in 1962, necessitated these distinct roles. This wasn't just about flying a ship. It was about intricate teamwork, where each person's unique skill set was indispensable for the mission's success.
And the training must have been intense.
Thousands of hours. Simulators, geological field studies, they actually went out to places that looked like the moon to understand what they might encounter.
Like craters in Arizona.
Exactly. And endless emergency procedure drills designed to prepare them for every conceivable scenario, from engine failures to communication blackouts in an environment, entirely alien to humanity. They were not just pilots, they were systems engineers, scientists, explorers, meticulously honed for this singular purpose.
Okay, let's talk about the vehicle. The sheer power needed to send humans all the way to the moon is, well, it's almost incomprehensible. It raises a really important question. What was the single most audacious piece of engineering that made lifting Apollo 11 possible? We've talked about the Saturn V before, but for this mission, it carried everything.
You're absolutely right to call it audacious. This monumental undertaking relied on the Saturn V, the heavy lift launch vehicle designed specifically for lunar missions. As extensively covered in historical works like Stages to Saturn, it remains to this day the most powerful rocket ever successfully launched.
The numbers are just staggering.
They really are. For Apollo 11, the Saturn V delivered an immense 7.6 million pounds of thrust at liftoff.
Yeah.
To give you a sense of scale, that's enough power to lift, like a small battleship. The F1 engines on its first stage each consumed 3 tons of propellant per second.
Per second? That's mind-boggling.
Imagine standing miles away and still feeling the ground rumble violently beneath your feet, hearing a sound so immense it vibrated through your entire body. That was the Saturn V in action.
And it wasn't just one big burn, it was staged.
Correct. As we've discussed, or for those new to this series, it was a 3-stage marvel, standing 363 feet tall, taller than the Statue of Liberty. The first stage, the SIC, with its 5 F1 engines, did the heavy lifting for the first 2.5 minutes, accelerating the vehicle to like 6,000 miles per hour.
Okay.
Then the second stage, the SIV, powered by 5 J2 engines, pushed the spacecraft even further, close to Earth orbit. Finally, the third stage, the SIVB, with a single J2 engine, performed the crucial translunar injection burn to send the Apollo spacecraft on its way to the moon.
So the engineering wasn't just about raw power, but precision too.
Absolutely. Harnessing that power with incredible precision, orchestrating controlled explosions to deliver a delicate spacecraft and its human cargo safely beyond Earth's gravity. It was unequivocally the booster for lunar flights, a testament to what a focused national effort can achieve.
Once in space, the Saturn V's job was done, and the intricate Apollo spacecraft took over. And like you said, it wasn't just one ship, but really a complex 3-part system designed for a kind of celestial ballet.
Precisely. As explored in Chariots for Apollo, the Apollo spacecraft itself was a sophisticated interlinked system. First, you had the command module, or CM, affectionately named Columbia for this mission. This was the crew's quarters, their flight control section, their home for most of the mission, and critically, their ride back to Earth.
The only part that comes back.
The only part designed to survive re-entry. Inside, it was surprisingly cramped for 3 grown men, but it was packed with sophisticated systems, including the Apollo Guidance Computer, or AGC.
Which was revolutionary in itself.
Absolutely. A revolutionary piece of technology for its time, handling navigation and flight control with unprecedented autonomy for the 60s. Connected to that, was the Service Module, or SM. This housed the propulsion and spacecraft support systems, including the Main Service Propulsion System engine, the SPS, that would perform critical burns to get to and from lunar orbit.
Right.
Together, these two modules formed the Command Service Module, or CSM.
And then the star of the landing show, the LM.
The third and perhaps most innovative component was the Lunar Module, or LM. For Apollo 11, this delicate-looking craft was named Eagle. This was the specialized two-stage craft designed to ferry Armstrong and Aldrin to the lunar surface, support them during their stay, and then return them to the CSM in lunar orbit.
It looked so fragile, almost like it was made of foil.
It looked like a spindly, bug-like contraption because it was optimized to operate only in the vacuum of space and the low lunar gravity. There was no need for the aerodynamic shape of an aircraft, so every ounce of weight was stripped away. Function over form completely.
That multi-part spacecraft and the lunar orbit rendezvous concept always strikes me as incredibly complex. Were there ever serious doubts that it could be pulled off reliably, especially that docking in lunar orbit? I mean, it sounds like an entirely separate mission just to get back together.
That's a fantastic question, and you're spot on. While Olor seems logical to us today, it was a fiercely debated concept back then.
What were the alternatives?
Well, earlier plans included direct descent, which proposed sending one massive spacecraft directly to the moon and back.
Just one huge rocket.
One enormous rocket.
Oh.
Or Earth orbit rendezvous, assembling a larger spacecraft in Earth orbit before heading to the moon. Both required rockets far, far larger than even the Saturn V, what was feasible at the time. Olor was ultimately chosen in 1962 as a revolutionary compromise. It dramatically reduced the amount of mass that needed to be sent to the moon, making the mission feasible with the Saturn V's capabilities.
A calculated risk, then.
Definitely a calculated risk, but one that paid off handsomely. But yeah, it introduced immense complexity. Imagine the LM, Eagle, separating from the CSM, with Collins remaining in Columbia, orbiting the moon alone. Eagle would then perform a powered descent to the surface. After their lunar surface operations, the upper ascent stage of the LM would lift off from the moon, carrying the lunar samples and the two astronauts.
Leaving the landing gear behind.
Leaving the descent stage behind as a launch platform, essentially, and then it had to precisely rendezvous and dock with the CSM. Once the crew and samples were transferred, the LM ascent stage would be jettisoned, left to drift in lunar orbit.
It sounds like threading a needle from hundreds of thousands of miles away.
Pretty much. This strategy meant designing a dedicated landing craft capable of operating in a vacuum, performing a precise soft landing, launching again, and then meeting up with another spacecraft at speeds of thousands of miles per hour. Hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth. It was an engineering and navigation feat unparalleled in history, and it absolutely pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible at the time.
Okay, the mission plan itself. We've seen from the National Archives that there was an Apollo 11 flight plan detailing a carefully choreographed sequence of steps from liftoff to splashdown. Here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't just a list of things to do. It was like a script for history, wasn't it? With almost no room for improvisation. What did that look like?
It truly was a script for history, and the level of detail is, well, staggering. Works like Apollo by the Numbers and the Astronautics and Aeronautics 1969 chronology highlight the immense planning involved. Every single minute, every system check, every command was accounted for, from ignition sequences to sleep cycles to the precise scientific procedures to be carried out on the moon. The entire mission was meticulously laid out in documents that stacked, feet high.
So what was the basic sequence?
The general sequence, from the flight plan perspective, started with a powerful Saturn V launch from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This would be followed by Earth orbit insertion, then the critical translunar injection burn to send them on their 3-day journey to the moon. Once in lunar orbit, the intricate dance began. The separation of the lunar module, its powered descent to the surface, the precise 2.5 hours of surface operations, the dramatic lunar liftoff, the nail-biting rendezvous and docking with the command module.
Each step critical.
Every single one. Then the trans-Earth injection burn to slingshot them home, and finally re-entry and splashdown. Each stage had multiple backup plans and contingency procedures, all practiced endlessly.
That sounds like an impossible amount of information and decisions to manage in real time. What was the role of mission control and those ground teams in keeping this complex choreography on track? Because they weren't just watching, right?
Oh, absolutely not. You've hit on a crucial point. The role of mission control and the hundreds of ground teams in managing this complex choreography cannot be overstated. We often focus on the astronauts, naturally, but Houston was the beating heart of the mission, Hundreds of flight controllers, engineers, and scientists led by iconic figures like Flight Director Gene Kranz.
Krantz, yeah, failure is not an option.
That's the one. They worked around the clock in shifts. They were tracking every parameter of the spacecraft's health, every telemetry reading, communicating constantly with the crew, and ready to respond to any contingency within seconds.
So the flight plan wasn't set in stone?
Not entirely. It wasn't just a static guideline. It was a living document, dynamically managed. Imagine them glued to their consoles, monitoring thousands of data points, performing complex calculations, and making real-time decisions that had life or death consequences. They were the eyes and ears, the problem solvers, the silent heroes guiding the mission from afar. Their expertise ensured that every command, every maneuver, every critical decision was executed with utmost precision.
It sounds like a global effort, too.
It was a true testament to human organization, collaboration, and the power of teamwork on a global scale, with tracking stations all over the world contributing. They had to foresee every possible problem and have a solution ready, or be ready to invent one under immense pressure. It truly was a ballet of technology and human ingenuity, with a global support system working seamlessly.
Okay, launch day, July 16th, 1969. The world held its breath. I can only begin to imagine the anticipation, the palpable tension, and the sheer physical roar of that moment. For those watching, whether in person or on televisions across the globe, it must have felt like the entire planet was leaning forward.
It was an absolutely unforgettable spectacle. The raw power of the Saturn V launching the Apollo 11 crew towards the moon was an event unlike any before, and arguably since. Millions watched as the giant rocket, standing its impressive 363 feet tall, slowly, almost majestically, lifted off Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center at precisely 9:32 a.m. EDT.
That's slow liftoff. It seems counterintuitive for such power.
It does, but it's just overcoming inertia. The initial ascent was a violent but controlled climb. The 5 F1 engines of the first stage consumed propellants at that astonishing rate, generating that deafening rumble that resonated for miles. After about 2.5 minutes, the first stage separated, having propelled the vehicle to an altitude of roughly 38 miles and a blistering speed of 6,000 miles per hour.
And then stage 2 kicks in.
Right. With a thundering ignition, the second stage took over, its 5 J2 engines pushing the spacecraft even further towards orbit. Finally, the third stage ignited, ultimately inserting Apollo 11 into Earth orbit about 12 minutes after liftoff.
A parking orbit, essentially.
Exactly. This orbital insertion provided a brief pause, a moment for the crew to check all systems, and for mission control to confirm everything was nominal before the final critical push.
Which was the TLI burn.
That critical push was the translunar injection, or TLI, burn. This was a 5-minute, 48-second firing of the Saturn V's third stage engine, an absolutely crucial maneuver. It accelerated Apollo 11 from Earth orbit to over 24,000 miles per hour, fast enough to break free from Earth's gravity and set a precise course for the moon.
And it went perfectly.
It was an absolutely flawless launch and a perfect TLI burn, a testament to years of development and testing.
The journey to the moon itself, that 3-day transit, while perhaps less dramatic than liftoff or landing, must have been an incredible experience. The Command Service Module truly becoming their home in the vastness of space. What was life like inside Columbia for those 3 days?
This phase, covered in detail in the Apollo Flight Journal, was indeed where the CSM truly became their home, navigating the vast expanse of space. After the TLI burn, a complex maneuver called transposition, docking, and extraction, or TD&E, took place.
Okay, break that down. TD&E.
Right. The CSM, separated from the third stage, turned around 180 degrees and then docked nose-to-nose with the lunar module, which was still nestled within the adapter of the spent third stage.
Wow, Collins must have been flying that.
Michael Collins flew that maneuver. Imagine this intricate ballet in space. A precision maneuver where he had to carefully guide the command module to link up with the LM. Once docked, the CSM then pulled the LM free from the spent SIVB stage, which was then harmlessly sent on a trajectory past the moon.
Okay, so now they have the full stack, minus the rocket stages.
Exactly. For the next 3 days, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins lived and worked inside the command module Columbia. Their time was filled with routine but absolutely vital CSM operations. Navigation updates, meticulous systems checks, small trajectory correction burns to fine-tune their course.
And trying to sleep, I imagine.
And importantly, trying to get some rest, which wasn't always easy. They were essentially deep space navigators, constantly monitoring their course, taking star sightings, communicating with mission control. They would have seen Earth slowly shrink behind them, a brilliant blue marble against the blackness, and watched the moon grow larger and larger in the viewport ahead.
Until the next big burn, LOI.
Right. They were preparing for the next critical phase, lunar orbit insertion, or LOI. This required a precise 6-minute engine burn of the service module's main engine, the SPS engine, to slow the spacecraft down just enough to be captured by the moon's gravity.
No room for error there.
None. A miscalculation here, too long a burn or too short, would have sent them flying past the moon and into deep space or crashing into it. But on July 19, 1969, the SPS engine fired perfectly, successfully capturing Apollo 11 into lunar orbit, setting the stage for humanity's first landing.
The relief must have been huge.
Immense. In mission control and likely in the capsule as well.
So, after days of travel and a perfect orbital insertion, they finally arrived at the moon. Now comes the moment of truth for the LM Eagle. The intricate dance of separating the landing craft from the command module begins, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Indeed. While Armstrong and Aldrin prepared for descent inside Eagle, Michael Collins remained in the command module, Columbia, orbiting the moon. His role was far from passive. He was a vital communication link, maintaining contact with both Earth and the descending LM, and as you said, the ultimate lifeboat for his crewmates.
Circling alone up there.
Collins would circle the moon 14 times completely alone during the descent and surface operations. Imagine the unique blend of isolation and profound responsibility he carried, keeping Columbia perfectly ready.
So Eagle undocks.
All right, on July 20, Eagle separated from Columbia. It then began its powered descent, a complex process initiated by a burn of the LM's descent engine. This burn was designed to gradually reduce their orbital velocity and bring them closer to the lunar surface. As they descended, Mission Control in Houston received a torrent of telemetry, providing crucial data on their altitude, speed, fuel levels, all being monitored by teams of specialists on the ground.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The tension, palpable, even decades later as the world listened in. I remember hearing about alarms going off in the cockpit. What exactly happened in those final moments? Because it wasn't smooth sailing, was it?
Not at all. Those final moments of descent were incredibly challenging, a true test of Armstrong's skill and the ground team's problem-solving abilities under extreme pressure. As the LM approached the planned landing site in the Sea of Tranquility, Armstrong noticed, through his small triangular window, that the automatic guidance system wasn't leading them to a smooth, flat area, but towards a boulder-filled crater, maybe the size of a football field, an incredibly hazardous spot for landing. This demonstrated that even a carefully choreographed sequence still required decisive human intervention.
So he took over.
With remarkable composure, he took semi-automatic control, guiding the Eagle manually, flying it like a helicopter almost, searching for a safer, smoother area further downrange.
And that's when the alarms started.
During this critical maneuvering, yes, alarms blared in the cockpit, the famous 1202 and 1201 program alarms.
What did those mean? Sounded bad.
They sounded terrible.
Yeah.
They were actually caused by the LM's guidance computer being overloaded, trying to process too much data simultaneously, particularly from both the landing radar tracking the ground and the rendezvous radar, which shouldn't have been on but was, accidentally. Back in Houston, a young flight controller named Steve Bales quickly analyzed the situation, and after conferring with his backroom team, specifically Jack Garman, who knew the codes, confidently declared they were go to continue the descent. He understood that these were not critical errors threatening control, but rather a sign that the computer was prioritizing tasks and shedding lower priority ones. It could handle the landing guidance.
That was a huge call.
Absolutely crucial. And meanwhile, fuel levels were running dangerously low as Armstrong continued to search for a safe spot, adding to the intensity. You could hear the countdown from Capcom in Houston. 60 seconds, 30 seconds.
Wow, heart-stopping stuff.
Finally, with mere seconds of fuel remaining literally about 20 to 30 seconds worth, estimates vary. Armstrong declared, "Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed." This iconic moment of touchdown at 3:17 p.m. EDT on July 20, 1969, not only achieved the immediate objective, but fulfilled one of Project Apollo's primary goals, developing human capability to work in the lunar environment. They'd done it. Against all odds, with quick thinking and immense skill, they had landed.
After landing. Just incredible. But it wasn't immediate, right? They didn't just throw open the hatch. There was still a meticulous process of preparing for the first moonwalk. You don't just, hop out of a lunar module.
No, absolutely not. After that heart-stopping landing, Armstrong and Aldrin didn't immediately step outside. They spent several hours inside the LM. This was a crucial period dedicated to checking all systems, reconfiguring switches, preparing Eagle for liftoff, just in case an emergency arose.
A quick getaway plan.
Exactly. And, critically, eating a meal and trying to get some scheduled rest. The reports are they were too excited to sleep much. This delay was also partly due to their desire to be as fresh as possible for the arduous extravehicular activity, or EVA.
The suits looked cumbersome.
They were. As hinted at in documentaries like Moonwalk 1, the space suits were essential for survival and work in the harsh vacuum of space. They were like personal spacecraft. They had to be meticulously donned, a complex process in itself within the cramped LM, and then checked and double-checked for integrity. The LM was then depressurized, a slow process, venting its atmosphere into space, and finally the hatch opened.
And Armstrong got ready to descend.
Yes. Armstrong, after lowering himself slowly down the 9-rung ladder, deployed the Modular Equipment Stowage Assembly, the MESA, from the side of the LM. This contained a television camera to capture the historic moment for the eagerly awaiting world.
That grainy black and white image?
Exactly. The final checks before egress were critical, ensuring oxygen, communication, and environmental controls in their portable life support systems, or PLSS, those big backpacks, were functioning perfectly. Every detail accounted for, every safety measure confirmed.
Then came the moment captured forever in history. I still get goosebumps thinking about it, even all these decades later. That image, the voice, it's just burned into our collective memory.
Indeed. At 10:56 p.m. EDT, on July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong descended the final rungs of the ladder. As his left foot touched the lunar surface, he uttered those unforgettable words, slightly different perhaps than planned. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind.
He said a man, right? Though it's often quoted without the A.
The audio's a bit garbled, there's debate, but he always maintained he said a man. Regardless, the meaning was clear. This single act achieved preeminence in space for the United States and inspired millions globally. The impact was immediate and profound. An estimated 600 million people worldwide watched the live broadcast, a staggering number for the time. It was an unprecedented global event uniting people across continents, cultures, and languages in a shared moment of awe.
Just imagining that view.
Imagine the view from that ladder. The stark, desolate, yet beautiful lunar landscape stretching out under the black sky with a brilliant, distant Earth hanging overhead. Armstrong described the surface as fine and powdery, almost like charcoal. The imagery, though grainy and black and white, was captivating, showing humanity literally setting foot on another celestial body for the first time. It wasn't just an American achievement. It felt like a profound human achievement, broadcast across continents, bridging cultures and languages.
Not long after, maybe 20 minutes or so, he was joined by Buzz Aldrin, and together they cemented their place in history, creating some of the most iconic images we know today.
Just about 19 minutes after Armstrong's initial step, Buzz Aldrin joined him on the lunar surface. The National Archives holds that famous photograph of astronaut Edwin E. Buzz Aldrin, Jr. posing on the moon next to the U.S. flag, which remains one of the most iconic images of human exploration.
The flag picture, yeah.
A profound symbol of human presence on another world. Aldrin immediately began assisting Armstrong with various tasks, including setting up experiments and collecting samples. He described the view as magnificent desolation.
And the flight itself, that was a whole thing, right? Getting it to stand up.
It was. One of their most significant actions and a potent symbol was the planting of the U.S. flag on the lunar surface. This wasn't a standard fabric flag fluttering in a non-existent breeze, obviously. It was specially designed with a telescoping pole and a horizontal bar along the top edge to make it rigid and appear to wave, ensuring it would stand proudly against the blackness of space. They actually had a bit of trouble getting the pole deep enough into the compacted lunar soil.
Really? Even planting the flag wasn't easy.
No, but while a symbolic gesture, it carried immense weight, representing the colossal national effort and scientific achievement that had made this monumental feat possible. It was a poignant marker of humanity's audacious journey and a visual declaration of a goal achieved.
Okay, so what exactly did they do up there during their short time on the moon? It wasn't just about stepping out, planting a flag, and taking pictures, right? They were there for a purpose beyond just being the first. They had science objectives.
Precisely. Their activities directly addressed Apollo's goal of carrying out a program of scientific exploration of the moon, and crucially, developing human capability to work in the lunar environment. During their approximately 2.5-hour EVA on the lunar surface, Armstrong and Aldrin weren't just sightseeing, they were pioneering field scientists in the most extreme laboratory imaginable. They deployed several crucial scientific instruments from the LM's storage bay. This was the early Apollo Scientific Experiments Package, or ESEP.
ESEP. Okay, what was in it?
These included the Passive Seismic Experiment, or PSE, which was essentially a highly sensitive seismometer designed to detect moonquakes. Yes, the moon has quakes and meteoroid impacts.
To understand the moon's insides.
Exactly. This data was critical for understanding the moon's interior structure, whether it had a molten core like Earth, spoiler, it doesn't really, and its geological activity. It actually continued transmitting data for years. They also deployed the Lunar Ranging Retroreflector, or LRRR. This was a special array of corner cube mirrors.
Mirrors? Why mirrors?
These mirrors allowed scientists back on Earth to bounce high-powered lasers off the moon and precisely measure the Earth-Moon distance down to a few centimeters. This unprecedented accuracy has yielded ongoing insights into lunar wobble, Earth's rotation, and even subtle tests of Einstein's theory of relativity. And they still use it today.
Wow, that's incredible longevity.
It is. Using details from resources like the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal, you can really imagine their movements carefully navigating the powdery regolith, adjusting their equipment in their bulky suits. They reported that walking was a unique experience, a sort of loping gait in the low 1/6 gravity. They had to adapt to the cumbersome suits, limited visibility through their visors, and the fine, abrasive lunar dust that clung to everything.
That dust was a problem, wasn't it?
It got everywhere. They methodically carried out tasks, tested their mobility, and demonstrated the functionality of their equipment in this entirely new, hostile environment, proving that humans could effectively work off-world.
And they brought pieces of the moon back with them, forever changing our understanding of its geology. That must have been a core objective, bringing back tangible proof, the samples.
It absolutely was a primary goal. The existence of things like Astromaterials 3D, a virtual library of NASA's Apollo lunar collections, underscores the critical importance of the samples collected. Armstrong and Aldrin gathered about 47.5 pounds or 21.5 kilograms of lunar rocks and soil, using scoops, tongs, and even small core tubes to retrieve samples from below the surface.
Was it just grab whatever looked interesting?
It was a bit more systematic than that, though time was very limited. Armstrong collected a contingency sample very early on, just in case they had to leave quickly. Then they collected documented samples, trying to get a variety of types near the landing site. These samples, comprising materials including basalt from ancient volcanic flows, breccia, which are rocks made of fragments fused together by impacts and unique impact glasses, provided an unprecedented treasure trove for geologists back on Earth.
And what did those first rocks tell us?
The initial findings for these Apollo 11 samples immediately revolutionized our understanding of the moon's origin and evolution. For instance, analysis of these first rocks indicated that the moon was much older than previously thought, billions of years old, and that its surface had been shaped by intense volcanic activity in its early history, followed by a period of heavy bombardment from asteroids.
So not a cold, dead rock entirely.
Not always, no. These samples, and the ones from subsequent Apollo missions, contributed directly to the long-term scientific goals of the Apollo program. They allowed for detailed geochemical analysis, radiometric dating, and a fundamental reassessment of lunar science. They offered tangible, irrefutable proof of the moon's composition and provided the foundation for all subsequent lunar geology, moving our understanding of our celestial neighbor from theoretical speculation to empirical fact.
After their historic, if brief, time on the moon, just that single EVA, it was time to leave. That liftoff from the lunar surface without a launch pad or ground crew, that must have been another nerve-wracking but exhilarating moment.
It was certainly both, and an incredibly precise maneuver. The LM ascent staged liftoff from the lunar surface approximately 21.5 hours after landing was a critical moment that relied entirely on the craft's internal systems and the astronauts' training. There was no massive Saturn V, no elaborate ground crew. It was just Armstrong and Aldrin in their small ascent vehicle, firing a single engine to propel them back into lunar orbit.
Using the descent stage as a launch platform?
Exactly, leaving the bottom half behind. This powerful yet brief burn was precisely timed to put them on a trajectory to rendezvous with Michael Collins, who had been patiently orbiting above in Columbia for nearly a full day, acting as their solitary sentinel.
And the rendezvous, that LAR concept again being put to the ultimate test.
Absolutely. The precision required for this rendezvous and docking was a true testament to the engineering and navigation expertise, a culmination of the lunar orbit rendezvous concept. Think of it as hitting a moving target with another moving target, both traveling at thousands of miles per hour, hundreds of thousands of miles from home. Even small errors could have resulted in them missing each other in the vastness of space. After a tense chase and a series of delicate maneuvers guided by the LM's radar and computer, they successfully docked with Columbia.
And what a reunion that must have been for the crew, all three back together. After the docking, the LM's job was done, correct? It wasn't needed anymore.
Absolutely an emotional reunion, you have to imagine. Once docked, Armstrong and Aldrin transferred themselves. And crucially, the precious lunar samples carefully bagged and boxed back into the command module with Collins. The LM ascent stage, Eagle, having fulfilled its incredible purpose, was then jettisoned into lunar orbit, a final piece of space debris from humanity's first landing. It eventually crashed back to the moon, actually, as planned on a later mission to calibrate seismometers. Okay, from then on, it was just Columbia and its 3 crewmates for the journey home.
The return trip to Earth, while seemingly less dramatic than the landing, was still fraught with its own challenges, right? They still had a long way to go, and their survival depended entirely on the integrity of their spacecraft, Columbia.
You're absolutely right. The journey home after leaving lunar orbit was another multi-day transit, lasting about 3 days. The trans-Earth injection, or TEI, was the crucial engine burn to leave lunar orbit and head back to Earth.
Another big burn with the SPS engine.
Exactly. This burn, again performed by the service module's main engine, had to be executed with perfect precision to ensure they were on a trajectory that would bring them back safely into Earth's atmosphere at the right angle. Too shallow, they skip off. Too steep, they burn up.
High stakes again.
Always. During this long journey back, the crew continued diligent CSM systems management, meticulously monitoring all onboard systems, performing navigation updates, and making minor trajectory corrections to fine-tune their approach. They also had time to reflect on their incredible achievement, take more photographs of the shrinking moon and the rapidly growing Earth, and prepare themselves both mentally and physically for the intense experience of re-entry.
And that re-entry, that final fiery plunge, must have been the ultimate test of the command module's heat shield and the crew's resilience.
The final, dramatic stages of the mission involved bringing the crew safely home, and it was anything but gentle. This began with atmospheric re-entry. The command module, Columbia, the only part designed to survive, separated from the service module, which was no longer needed and burned up harmlessly in the atmosphere. The CM then plunged into Earth's atmosphere at speeds approaching 25,000 miles per hour. The friction generated by the atmosphere created a fiery plasma sheath around the capsule,
making it look like a meteor.
Exactly. It temporarily cut off radio communications, a tense blackout period for mission control that lasted several minutes. For the crew inside, they were experiencing significant G-forces, and they were protected from temperatures reaching thousands of degrees by the incredibly robust ablative heat shield on the bottom.
That shield basically burns away to dissipate the heat.
Precisely. Finally, after decelerating dramatically, a sequence of parachutes deployed. First drogues to stabilize it, then the 3 huge main parachutes, slowing the capsule further for a relatively soft splashdown. On July 24, 1969, Apollo 11 successfully landed in the Pacific Ocean, completing that carefully choreographed sequence of steps with astounding precision.
And recovery was right there.
The recovery ship, the aircraft carrier USS Hornet, was nearby. Helicopters were launched, swimmers jumped into the water, and the crew was quickly recovered. But then they immediately went into quarantine.
Right, the moon germs concern.
Exactly. They began a period of strict biological quarantine in a special mobile facility. This was a precautionary measure, as scientists wanted to prevent any potential contamination from unknown lunar microorganisms, though ultimately no such organisms were found.
A cautious end to a bold mission.
It was a triumphant, if somewhat cautious, return for the heroes who had just walked on the moon.
So, what does this all mean, looking back? Apollo 11 didn't just land humans on the moon. It achieved far more for the nation, and indeed for humanity, than simply completing a mission objective. What was its true impact? What's the legacy?
Indeed it did. Apollo 11 was a monumental achievement that fulfilled several profound national goals and resonated far beyond. Firstly, it established a technology to meet other national interests in space, but also here on Earth. The innovations in rocketry guidance systems, think about the AGC computer.
Miniaturization, yeah.
Miniaturization, microelectronics, computing, advanced materials science, life support systems, even fire-resistant textiles developed for Apollo had far-reaching implications.
Mm.
Many became spin-offs that benefit us today, from advanced medical imaging and portable computers to memory foam and satellite communications. The list is huge.
And politically.
Secondly, it cemented the United States' leadership and preeminence in space, a direct fulfillment of one of Apollo's core goals amidst the intense Cold War space race. It was a decisive moment in demonstrating not just technological prowess, but also national resolve and the capacity for extraordinary collective effort. It effectively won that leg of the space race.
And just for humanity itself.
And perhaps most profoundly, it demonstrated humanity's capability to undertake and accomplish extraordinary feats, developing the human capacity to work and thrive beyond Earth. It didn't just push the boundaries of what was thought possible, it fundamentally reshaped them. It showed what focus and resources could achieve.
The images and sounds of Apollo 11 are still etched into our collective memory. It's truly an enduring source of inspiration, even today, isn't it?
Absolutely. The 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 moon landing, celebrated globally just a few years ago, highlights its enduring cultural impact. It was a moment of unprecedented unity and shared human achievement, transcending political boundaries and inspiring a generation across the world. People paused to watch, to marvel, and to dream. It created a profound sense of collective awe and possibility, making the impossible seem within reach for ordinary people.
It proved we could do these amazing things.
It proved that vision, combined with relentless dedication and, yes, significant resources, could literally move mountains, or in this case, send humans to another celestial body and bring them back safely.
And that one giant leap continues to inspire new generations of explorers and scientists, pointing towards future endeavors beyond Earth, perhaps even to Mars someday.
Exactly. And for those listening who want to dive even further into the factual content and the incredible nuances of this mission, the resources we've drawn upon offer immense detail. The Apollo Flight Journal and Apollo Lunar Surface Journal provide minute-by-minute transcripts, audio, and detailed accounts of everything that happened. You can practically relive the mission.
Those are amazing online resources.
They really are. Apollo by the Numbers offers statistical insights into every aspect of the mission. The annotated bibliography of the Apollo program and the NASA History Office's Apollo publications are treasure troves of in-depth historical analysis. You can even find 3D models of Apollo landing sites and astromaterials through NASA's resources and the Lunar and Planetary Institute, allowing you to virtually explore the moon and examine the very samples Armstrong and Aldrin brought back.
So much detail out there.
These resources truly bring the mission to life, offering endless avenues for further exploration.
Well, we've journeyed with Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, witnessing the culmination of years of dedicated work, scientific ingenuity, and sheer human will. Apollo 11 was far more than just a mission. It was a defining moment for humanity, a testament to what we can achieve when we set our minds to the seemingly impossible and commit to the meticulously choreographed steps required.
And this raises an important question, doesn't it? Considering the carefully choreographed sequence of steps, the scientific rigor, the technological innovation, the massive collaborative effort that took us to the moon and back. How do we apply that same level of meticulous planning and human potential to the grand challenges we face today, whether they be environmental, social, or technological? The Apollo program's success offers profound lessons in overcoming what seems impossible if we choose to learn them.
Think about that for a moment. The audacious goal set in the early 1960s achieved against immense odds within a single decade. What giant leaps are waiting for us to undertake next? And what lessons from the incredible story of Apollo 11 will guide us there? Thank you for taking this deep dive with us into the legendary story of Apollo 11. Until next time, keep exploring.